Okay, so I was looking at some stuff today. Basically, I was just looking up some data analytics news, and it was crazy because what came up was something that wasn't even news. So if we look up analytics muse, yeah, we're mewing. If we look up analytics news, um, okay, I got literally a different search result this time, but like something like this, like data science is dead. And then the same with if we look up engineer, I don't know what the heck. Oh, okay, it changed my search. That's why I got different results. Yeah, so like, will AI replace data engineers? Will AI replace data engineers? AI will replace top 5 AI will replace. Let me do this again. Data analyst news. Data analyst crash. Quit data now. Like what? So originally I was just gonna look up basically some news about data analytics, and what I came across was like all these people posting FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt around tech jobs, data jobs. And so I was like, all right, well, am I gonna lose my job? I need to look this stuff up and see what they're saying. So I watched a few videos, and I'm just gonna kind of briefly go over that. So this guy, his main point was that there's simply more data analysts, there's simply more people in the job market today. And that part is true. And we're going to go over that. And this person said something about predicting something with AI. Yeah, and changing. So basically saying upskill and something with AI. This person also said upskill and check that you're searching up the right job title when you apply for stuff. And this person, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, bro. Like this was like absolute clickbait. The title, um, and his video, it was like, oh, use AI and then don't just know SQL, know how to, become a data strategist. This is basically just saying understand data problems. And we'll get into that in a sec. And then over here, he's just selling some data camp course. So, you know, nothing wrong with that, but like, come on. Um, and this was basically just saying to upskill and use AI instead of running away from AI, which is fair. And then his video, it was kind of different. It wasn't really on the topic that I was actually looking up, but I wanted to see what he was saying here. It's a little bit older. It's a seven months ago video, and it's a little bit unrelated, but basically it's talking about how companies want data engineers and then they don't want them. So a little bit different topic. And he was talking about something, again, it's a little bit of a different topic where, you know, maybe there's a new title, AI engineering versus data engineering. But I think both of them had something really great to say, but it wasn't actually about the question that I was looking for, which is data analytics dying? Is data engineering dying because of AI? And then this is future of data engineering in a post AI world. And, to be honest, I didn't watch this whole video because I realized that I don't think this is also answering the question either. It's basically talking about how can we improve analytics? How can we change with the change of AI, right? If we look at this, we're talking about descriptive analytics. What is happening? Predictive analytics. What's most likely to happen? What should we do next? And then they're saying there's a new frontier with AI, cognitive analytics. So AI, we see what should we do next, and then it's going to let me help you with that. So it's actually not doing descriptive analytics, which if you're a data analyst or if you want to be a data analyst, you're going to be doing descriptive analytics. Forget about why it happened. Forget about what's the most likely thing to happen. That's for business leaders. That's for different people, product managers. That's for executives. That's also for data scientists that are more senior. And all of that is completely irrelevant from the question at hand, which is data analytics dying or data engineering or even data science, but mainly at the novice level, the beginner level, right? Because if you're already intermediate, if you're already advanced and highly technical, um, I mean, I don't know if you're really that worried about your job security. Maybe if singularity happens or an EMP, there's World War III, there's an EMP, right? The EMP blows up all computer stuff. So yeah, you don't have a job now. You have to be a farmer or something. But that would be for any job in tech. That would be for the whole world. So we're not going to worry about that crazy scenario. There's another infographic though that I kind of liked, um, but let's see if we can find it really quick. Maybe it was at the beginning. Yeah, yeah. So basically, this is what I'm saying. This video, it's talking about like the next wave of innovation. So here we have like, who cares? That's stupid stuff. So the fourth wave is kind of like we have aviation, and here we have fifth wave is digital. So it's just talking about the next wave of stuff. And then I used Perplexity and asked it like, what's the statistics on stuff like college degrees and student statistics. And so we're going to get into all of that. I'm going to go over basically one, answer the primary question: is data analytics dying for beginners? Is the job role going to be gone? Then we're going to look at statistics as far as competition statistics, how many people are joining the field, how it's being searched. And then we're going to look at real examples of what you would search to find jobs if you wanted to. And we're going to basically encompass all of that and just see, what we're working with that. So the first thing that I think it is true is, how many people are coming into this field. And so I actually went to Indeed's data website, which I'll be honest, the chart is a bit misleading. So first I need to describe what this data is. And another thing we'll tackle as well is the question about what is upskilling. And when people say, oh, you need to like know the business stuff, you need to know the strategy, we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But basically, so Indeed job postings index. So the thing about this is that it's only showing you the change. And so basically what this says is change in level of job postings on Indeed, 7-day trailing average. So 7-day trailing average, which basically gets the number on this timestamp. So it gets the number of, let's say it's Monday at 12 a.m. or whatever. It gets the number of jobs today over the past 7 days, and it calculates the difference between that number and the number from the previous day. So it's getting the difference. It's not getting the total quantity. We can't see the total quantity. We can only see the change. And so unfortunately, it's only doing to 2020, which is like, I mean, it's like pre-COVID, like right before COVID. So if we had like 2019 or down to 2018, I feel like this would be even more insightful. And so we'll look at this as well. The tooltip, it says metric context. A reading of 101 signifies the overall level of job postings is 1% higher than the level on the previous day. Oh no, on the level on February 1st, 2020. Okay, so I was wrong. It's actually comparing it against a static number, which is why is the baseline February 1st, 2020? So somebody decided what the baseline is. And this is supposed to be pre-COVID baseline number, presumably, which again, like we can't see what that number is. So we have to take this with a grain of salt. Now, I have a few different sectors up here, and we're just looking at US. And you can extrapolate this. You can look at this yourself. Here's the website. You can look at this yourself for your own country. But for now, we're looking at the US. And basically, I pulled up a few different sectors so that I could compare the overall trends and the sector trends. So basically, what I mean by that is, let's say that data and analytics is going down. Well, is everything else going down? Because if that's the case, that's like a macroeconomic scale issue. And you could say maybe that's AI, but we have to kind of theory craft our own conclusion with this stuff. Now, one thing I did find is that there are some sectors that they have more. They have more job postings. So dental, where again, we don't really know what the baseline is, but what we can say is COVID hit dental. No one's going to get their teeth checked or whatever for a couple months or something. Then it came back. Everyone started getting cavities, and then it just steadily rose, and now it's kind of just normalizing and tapering off. And now I believe it's more or less the same conclusion with the other sectors. So if we remove the outlier dental and we just look at these four, which all correlate pretty much 1-to-1, what we're going to see is that, again, it's kind of like a macroeconomic trend. And this is arts and entertainment, banking and finance, data analytics, and then IT, infrastructure, operations, and support. This would be, I would hope this would be the software engineering category. But again, as we can see, blue, pink, those are the unrelated, and yellow and green are the related. So blue and pink had a higher top, and then what's it called? Pink and orange had a higher top, and then pink and orange had a lower bottom, and pink had a higher bottom. So I think that, and this is at the 1. So this is almost identical to where it was before. And then if we're going to look at the arts, if we're going to look at software engineering, if we're going to look at data analytics, that is down. So this is double. This is times, this is like 50% more. This is double. So this chart also visually is very misleading. And then this is 50% or so, 60%. So what we're seeing is that based on the number of jobs posted in 2020, there's about 60% that are posted now for data analytics specifically. Okay. There's also the same for IT and infrastructure. There's 60 to 70%, whatever. It's basically the same. You have to consider, are job titles changing? Maybe some data analyst job title went from data analyst to product management analyst or something. So there could be stuff like that because it was kind of a blossoming field and job title, even at that time and even now. Arts and entertainment, it's about 75. So they're all decreasing. And then banking also decreased. And I guess they're trying to find a baseline. I would say that there's also going to be a difference with the IT sector. And of course, it has to do with AI and it has to do with job layoffs and people, or not people, but companies doing massive layoffs to avoid severance packages. Or sorry, they were forcing people to come back into the office to avoid severance packages. So you have to keep that in mind, that there are some nuances to how the macroeconomics are working here. But that being said, we still have to take this with a grain of salt. What we can say is that there's less job postings than the job postings in 2022 and 2023, right? However, there's not zero. There's not zero job postings. There's probably thousands. There's probably tens of thousands. There might even be hundreds of thousands of job postings. So keep that in mind. Even if it's down to 60% or 70% from this time, keep in mind, if there was 100,000 job postings, there's still 70,000, 60,000 job postings, and you need one. You literally need one job. You don't need 60,000. So you have to keep that in mind when we consider blue ocean and red ocean Is there a lot of opportunity? Are there a lot of people fighting for stuff? Maybe. So, but we can't say that there is less opportunity. We know that. Now, I was also trying to look at some Glassdoor statistics, but to be honest, I think that this is not really even that useful. So, Glassdoor Employee Confidence Index, which, what is that? A sentiment analysis. So, who really cares? But what we can't say, information. Assuming that this is software development, we went from 56 to 48. So, it's basically people are less confident. People are less confident. So, we could say that because people are less confident, that would reflect the reality and the actuality of how things are going from 2023 to 2024. And we can extrapolate that to 2025, that it's probably pretty similar, and that it's also the one with the biggest change in the negative trend, which is kind of what we were also seeing here. So we can say that there's going to be less jobs than before. Less jobs does mean more competition. That is true. Now, I also wanted to look at college graduates and degrees. So this is really important too. So I found this, again, we got to take this with a grain of salt. It's looking at 100,000 degrees from 2016 to 2023. So I think it's a very small sample size based on, the whole country. But if we're looking at the most popular college majors, if we look at the change, so what's it called? Mainly, I just want to see, okay, we're not going to look at well, we can still look at 2016, but mainly we want to look at like 2018, 2019, 2020 compared to 2023. And I know 2023, again, it's not 4 or 5, but it's the data that we have. And so for business, it basically went up a little bit. For nursing, it went up quite a decent amount. Psychology went up, education went down, biology went down, and then engineering went down quite a bit. But the main one we're looking at is computer science, and computer science went up. And so when we're looking at this number, but it went up from 3% to 3.4%. So it's about, I would say, 10% increase. But even if we look at 2020, it's at 3.3. And then if we look here, it's at the same 3.6, 3.4. And here it's at 3. So to be completely honest, I don't think that it really changed that much. But again, this is percentage of total college majors. But also say is that people are still getting this major. But I don't think it really changed that much. And the more important statistic I found was on this website, which I think that it's more important. And here's why. So we're going to actually look at, instead of the percentage of change, we're going to look at the number of college graduates, the total number. So we have in thousands. So this is like 2 million. And you have to keep in mind that as like boomers are leaving the job market, these people are coming into the job market. So what year is this? So if this is 2010, we have 1.6 million, and it went up significantly. And then if we look at 2020, there's 2 million. And then 2021, there's 2 million. And then 2022, there's 2 million. So over the 10 years, if we look at 15, there's just a lot more people graduating from college. And you could say that's a good thing. People are pursuing their education. There's more availability for people to become college educated and enrich their lives. You could say that's a great thing, that there's more opportunity for thousands and thousands of people. But you have to also understand from the level, from your perspective, which is there's more competition. There's more competition. So that means that a 3%, we go back here, if there's a 3% in computer science, what's 3% of 1 million? That is 30,000. So let's just say there's 30,000. In 2015, there's 30,000, 60,000 people that graduate. And then there's 60,000 again, and then there's 60,000 again, and then there's 60,000 again, then there's 60,000 again. So you have all of those people. So if there's 60,000 people that graduate every year with a degree that want a job, and there's 100,000 job postings, there's your competition. So we have to keep that in mind, but that doesn't mean that it's zero. And quite frankly, AI taking over data analytics is quite a ridiculous claim, but we can get to that a little bit later. Now, I did also see this Reddit post, which is the number of CS field graduates breaks 100K in 2021, almost 1.5x the number from 4 years prior. 4 years prior, so what is that, like 2016, 17? So if we look at 2017 and then 2021, okay, this kind of conflicts with the other data, but to be honest, it's probably more accurate. Yeah. So anyway, though, we can keep this in mind too, that we can assume that it's mostly the same, but also that it could be a lot more. It could be a lot more. We have to take all the data with a grain of salt. But we're probably not going to say that there's less people getting a CS degree, right? We're not going to be saying there's less. It's either a little bit more or a lot more, but either way. Then if we look at the Google Trends, so here I have data engineer, data analyst, and software engineer. So if we look at 2015, which was 10 years ago, the searches were where they were at, and then they were slowly increasing up to 2019, which is pre-COVID, right? This is pre-COVID 2019. And they were at this range. So the yellow one is software engineering, the red one is data analyst, and the blue is data engineer. Now, we went through, we did COVID, where it's 2020, people are masking up. And then what happens? During that time, people realize that they want a remote job because there's videos of once, it's 2022, right? This is when people are like, hey, get your mimosa, go on the beach, and become a software engineer or a data analyst and work 2 hours and get paid $300,000, right? Because the remote work during COVID, all of that stuff was a bit of a bubble, and you have to consider that as well. Like, if you're working some job, like you actually want to, I mean, I know it's a crazy statement, but you actually want to provide some value to the company you're working for. And if you're a business, why would you pay your employee $200,000 to play Call of Duty all day? You're not going to. So you have to also keep that in mind, that the dynamics were not sustainable. So we have to keep that in mind as well. But nonetheless, the trends went up. So more people are searching for it, which means that there's going to be more competition. That is how that works. So there is more competition for sure. But again, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you think about this from any other sector, if you wanted to get into nursing, if you wanted to become a doctor, if you wanted to become a teacher, there's more competition there too. And you probably say that year over year, oh, there's more competition to be a nurse. So just because there's more competition doesn't mean that the field is dead. I thought that some of these video titles were just insane. So now, what we're going to look at is just, how many are there any job postings in actuality, right? Let's just see what's going on Indeed. So data analyst. Okay. And one thing I want to say about searching on Indeed is that there are ways that you can fine-tune your search to get better results. You can weed out some of the stuff that is not really related to what you actually want to apply for. So keep that in mind. Like, for example, if you just wrap this in double quotes, it would probably change the results quite a lot. So it went from 7,000 to 5,000. So the reason for that is because it's basically looking up every job post that has the word data, every job post that has the word analyst, and putting them here. But if we wrap it in double quotes, it's looking up every job post that has data space analyst. So it's a little bit more pointed. Now, there's 5,000 jobs, and obviously not all of them are legitimate. Obviously, not all of them are legitimate. And you have to keep in mind that all the CS majors, all the quote unquote 100,000 or whatever, they're all competing for different job titles. They're not all data analysts. So you have to, you know, keep that in mind that it's not 100% of your competition. And also, they're all over the country too. So, again, all you have to find is one job. One job. You don't have to find 60,000 jobs. So we're just going to fine tune this to location. The first one I'll look at remote. I would not recommend applying to remote jobs if you have zero experience. The reason being is because why would a company trust you with their sensitive data and their expertise that they need done with this difficult task with somebody that has no experience that isn't local where they can train? Um, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. They are going to want you in the office. If you don't have any experience, you're going to want an in-person job. But we're just looking at number of job postings, so that's fine for now. So data analyst, we're looking at remote. There's 500. Cool. Okay, data analyst at this rate, this is, I don't know what this is. Property management stuff. This is going to be a senior data analyst. It's going to be a highly technical, highly expertise field of both the data analytics stuff, but also the domain knowledge of this one. It's going to be, I guess, real estate. So we need to filter for entry level. No experience required. Is that a new tag? Wait a second. There's only one job. Who's going to ask for no experience required? Yeah, so that's just some scam. Okay, entry level though, there's 50 jobs remote. Yeah, so, but we have to keep in mind, again, companies don't want to hire you if you're entry level remote. And the reason for that is because you don't know what the heck you're doing. And the communication is going to be more difficult from a training environment, training perspective if you're fully remote. If you know what you're doing, then remote is fine. You just take the keys and you take care of it. If you don't know what you're doing, then, what are they going to meet on Zoom for 6 hours? Probably not. Yeah, so this is a more normal salary for like a starting data analyst, 50,000. That is good. That is fine. That makes sense. Some random company. Cool. Let's look at another one. 1 year, blah blah. They want a bit much, I would say. That sounds a bit more senior. This one sounds good. Excel, blah blah. Yeah, this is Google Sheets, Excel. Yeah, mainly just look at the preferred qualifications. This is good. It looks like they just want you to look at some accounting stuff and numbers. So these are good. This one doesn't tell me what we're working with here. Not sure. Full job description. Power BI, Java, Python, data visualization, REST APIs. That's a bit, yeah. So these are kind of all over the place. So junior data analyst. R, Python, SQL. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so these are real. These look legit. These look like good. 40K, that's a good salary to start. Again, you're starting your career, so you can't really ask for 100,000. Like, if you think you're going to get into a tech job with zero experience, zero connections, and make six figures, look at the statistics for that. Why don't you look at the labor statistics for people that make that much money. It's a very small percentage of people. So I would say the number one most important thing is to simply get a job. So I think that people's expectations of what they can garner is probably overinflated because of this. Because it was like, oh, you can work 0 hours, do nothing, and make 300,000 in this era, and it's all BS. It's all BS. You need to be doing something real and legitimate, and this is a good salary to do that, where you're learning on the job and it'll take you where you want to go. In a short amount of time, 6, 12 months, you're exponentially more powerful and strong as an analyst with compared to 1 or 0 months. I was also going to look at Glassdoor, but they're just like kind of gating me, and I just don't even care to look at that. Another thing is that we could look at like Upwork or Fiverr. Let's look at that. And the other thing is, of course, before we look at that, actually, we also want to look at some skills. We could do SQL, or sorry, before we do that, how do I back? I can't do that. What the heck? Data analyst. And not remote, we'll just look at some cities. So remote was 50, New York is 300, Houston is 50, Chicago 100, Atlanta 100. So 100 job openings in these major cities. I think that's not bad. Again, you only need one. You only need one job. You don't need 100 jobs. And these are legit jobs. These are like entry level. They're giving you like 40, 50K, and they're asking for Excel or something like that. Like, that's really what you are going to want to target if you have zero experience. Um, in my personal opinion, maybe you went to college and you learned about C++, Python, but again, what company is going to want to hire someone fully remote with no experience working on C++? They're going to break their app. They're going to destroy their app. Everything you do is going to have to be rewritten by someone that is an expert that's been working there longer. So you have to consider that what you're going to garner is not going to be what, you know, it's not going to be this. It's not going to be that. It's not going to be that. It's going to be low. It's going to be lower than this. It's going to be much lower than this. Um, but that's okay because making 40,000 a year is still better than making zero per year, right? Okay, so let's check data analyst on Upwork. Oh, the other thing I did also want to do is look at, like, for example, if we just look up the hard skill like SQL, then we see there's 1,000 jobs with SQL. That's crazy. If we look up Python, and this is just in one city, that's a lot. Python, 1,000 jobs. Excel, 8,000 Excel jobs. Insane. We'll look up something like Power BI. This should be less. 500. 500 with Power BI, though. That is a lot. So the keyword data analyst is also not the best keyword to find all the jobs. And this comes back to like how to utilize Indeed searches properly. So keep that in mind that you also need to have a varied search and apply to a lot of different things. So let's see. Can I look at the jobs here? We're going to be doing data analyst. And I think the Boolean works the same here. Talent, projects, jobs. Oh, sign up. Login, sign up. Search, jobs, search. Manage my cookies. Okay. We're going to be looking for entry level. We're going to do, can we do United States? Okay. Okay. And here we have not that many with data analysts. That's okay. Let's do SQL. If we look up the skills, there's even more. And we look up Power BI. There's also one page. But yeah, I mean, that's okay. Maybe Excel as well would probably have a lot more, and I think that that is the best place to probably get started with. Yeah, so there's a bunch of pages with Excel. Yeah, so probably Excel would be where you want to get started, whether you're going to get started doing freelancing or if you're going to look for a traditional job or do both. Excel clearly has the most opportunity. Now, of course, you're going to want to filter some of these out, and maybe you don't want to work in a supply chain environment, right? And also, this is not 100,000. Okay, maybe there we need to do entry level. Maybe that's what was messing that up. Okay, there's still 3,000 jobs when we search entry level, though. That's crazy. In one city. In one city. 22,000 in New York. That's crazy. Crazy. 8,000. Yeah, so financial analyst, they're going to be different though. They're going to be very varied, but that's okay because you don't necessarily need to focus on the domain knowledge. If you're entry level, if you're a beginner, the main thing you want to focus on is simply just getting some experience working with data of any kind, and you'll be good. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to address is essentially the upskilling thing, which people are saying, like you need to be a data strategist. So when it comes to that, is AI going to replace people? I need a good infograph. I need a good infograph. Is cognitive analytics going to replace data analysts when it comes to, and he was talking about this too, actually, he might have a good infograph. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, like this. Like, is our data engineers going to work with AI analysts instead of real human being analysts? Maybe. We'll see. But there's still going to be data analysts because the bottom line is that a lot of the work that data analysts do is not necessarily making the charts, it's cleaning the data. And so this is number two. This is what it actually means. When you're working with the data to make sure it's clean and proper, that's the part that AI is not doing. That's the part that humans are doing to make it work with AI properly. And so that's the part that you're really truly getting paid for. Maybe I can do a different infograph. Yeah, this one is nice. So that's the part that you're really getting paid for, which is cleaning the data. So, and there is this kind of metaphor of like a data engineer is like a janitor where they're cleaning stuff up. Nobody wants to pay the janitor, but everyone wants their facilities clean. Nobody wants to pay the data engineer, but everyone wants their data clean because you quite literally can't do anything with unclean data. It's not workable. AI cannot fix it either because there's things that are unexplainable, anomalies that are unexplainable, columns that have things and dependencies that no one knows what it means. You have to ask your manager, you have to ask the business leader, hey, what does this column actually mean in the real world? And they'll tell you, and then you can kind of align it. You could say, oh, well, the AI could ask the business manager what it means. Sure, but that would be saying that the business manager is now the data analyst. And I can guarantee you that they're not going to want to do that, especially when it's a real big company. They have way too much on their plate. They're going to want an analyst. Maybe if it's a one-man show, a two-man show, they can do multiple hats. But in a normal company where there's a decent number of employees, they're definitely going to want somebody analyzing various things, handing it over to the next person. So that's what it means to essentially become a data strategist. That's what it means to upskill to have more than just SQL and Excel, is to have, oh, I'm a leader in the business in the data and business space. You need to know how to clean the data. And to know how to clean the data is ambiguous, and to know how to clean the data is something that's learned over time, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes basically compound into your knowledge base. One thing I can say about cleaning data is that it's very imperative to always double check your work. That is the highest thing. So you do your work, and then you go back over it a second time, every single time, and check what you did. Now, why would you do that? It's because you're a human being, and AI is even worse than a human being when it comes to making things incorrect. So, or you could say it's better. It's better at it. Either way, they're still going to make mistakes. Whether it's worse or better, it doesn't matter. You still need to double check the work. And that, if we would say that AI can do 95% of what a human data analyst can do, or even 99% of what a human data analyst can do, the human element of that last 5% or last 1% is what they're going to be paying you the $40,000 or $60,000 salary to do that, because that's the part that matters, which is certifying that the data is correct, literally. And it's the same thing when it comes to software engineering. Sure, AI can take a code or natural language and spit out a function that works. The function works. But when it comes to the part that AI can't do, that's testing. That's testing the code with the rest of the program, the rest of the app, the rest of the script, with a lot of moving parts. AI is not testing that. AI is not testing that part out. A human being is testing that out to ensure that everything is working together properly as expected. And it's the same thing in data analytics. You're testing to make sure that everything is proper, making sure that everything is correct as expected. So some examples of cleaning data has to do with data types, messing up data type mismatching. So if you paste data from Excel to another Excel, and this issue is so annoying, but it is one issue that I have seen many times. If the columns are too slim and there's like a date field in one of the columns, and you highlight the whole box and you copy it and then you paste it over, sometimes when you paste it over, it literally pastes a bunch of hashtags into the second file instead of the actual dates, because Excel shows hashtags when things are cut off, which is just, it's boomer tech, basically. This is something they made like 20 years ago. But nonetheless, so that's a data quality issue where you just lost your entire column of data. So you need to make sure. So what I do is I highlight the whole table. I double click the top column so everything spreads out completely. Then I highlight the whole table, copy it over, and then we can keep that data. Another thing is that if a common issue is we're pre-rounding metrics, if we're basically doing a round function on a numerical set, like it could be something like total sales. If we're rounding total sales and then we're using the rounded version of total sales and other things like total sales times spend, total sales times cost of goods sold, if we're using the metric that's rounded, it's actually going to be ever so slightly inaccurate to what the actual difference would be, what the actual net sales would be, what the actual sales minus cost of goods sold would be. So using a pre-rounded metric in your analytics, in your metrics, in your reports makes the numbers slightly off. And I've seen that many times where there's some report that I've seen that was made previously where the metrics are being pre-rounded, and then I'm looking at them and it's off slightly. So that's another data quality issue. And so these are just two examples of basically things that the AI necessarily won't be able to address. They're vague, they're ambiguous, they're things that you will not see, they're things that it will not see. And it's only when you do a thorough investigation of, hey, is my data correct based on what the expectation or the raw reality is to what the report shows, is that correct? Only when you do that is when you can kind of fully correct these crazy errors that are going on. And I would say that's the main thing. And then, of course, when it comes to applying for jobs, if there's going to be more competition, if there's going to be less jobs, that means that you're going to have to send in more applications. You're going to have to be open to worse opportunities. You're going to have to be open to potentially moving. I would highly encourage you to be open to moving to get your first job. So if you apply in only the city or only the state that you're in, you are severely limiting your opportunities. If you apply to all 50 states, think of think of the opportunities. You 50x your opportunities, right? Now, granted, you will have to pay for your moving. That's what I personally did. I paid to move across the country for my first job, and I think that was a good choice. So that's what I would recommend. So if there's going to be more competition, then you need to take what you can get, and also you have to upskill and have good practice projects. I mean, I think everyone has said this a million times, though, obviously, but having good practice projects is the key to getting your emails and calls returned. So you need to do for every technology that you have on your resume. For example, if it's Excel, have 3 practice projects. If it's SQL, have 3 practice projects. Power BI, 3 practice projects. And basically, all you need is just a screenshot of what you did, a screenshot of your code in SQL with the output table, with some complicated functions, maybe. A screenshot of some complicated function in Excel, a screenshot of some charts in Excel, a screenshot of some complicated DAX formula in Power BI, a screenshot of a Power BI report, right? So you need 3 examples, and talking about using real world data, all that stuff. They're not going to see the underlying data in these examples. The data, it's basically going to be clean. So the data is going to be clean. The only thing that you can essentially the only thing that you can work with when it comes to being like an expert with data and a data strategist is if you just check your work. Ask the manager what this stuff means. Hey, you tell me, what is this? There's a field that's called, ipsum. What is ipsum? What is ipsum supposed to be? Okay, got it. And then you'll be good. So to answer the original question, is the data analyst role dying? No, it's not. Is there less jobs than 2022? Yes. Is there more applicants than 2019? Yes. What does that show you though? That shows you that there's more demand. There's more demand over time. And that it's a growing field. If there was high salaries 10 years ago and only a few people doing it, and now there's a way more people doing it. Okay, that doesn't make sense. But either way, is it dying? No. Is AI replacing it? No. Because there's ambiguity that AI in the current day, the current year, in the current year of 2025, 2026, AI cannot do that currently. So let's wait until singularity. Keep doing your thing until singularity happens. That's what I would say. Because singularity is going to mess up every field. At that point, you're going to have to pivot anyway. At that point, everyone's going to have to pivot. So don't worry about that for now. I would have to pivot too, right? We all would. Maybe I would start doing trash. I would start doing the trash. I would start working at a warehouse or something. And that's okay. That would suck though. That would really suck. But yeah, so it's not dying, and AI in this day and age, it's not taking it over. There are some automations that AI has been doing. Um, but basically, to be honest with you, these businesses are setting things up, and it's kind of adjacent. It's not replacing analysts per se. It's just automating various business tasks. I think things are just changing. So, you could say like, well, there's always been automation, there's always been upgrades, there's always been changes. So, with the constantly changing field, you have to constantly adapt. I think that's mainly what it comes down to. Um, AI, it's great, it's improving. It's not in the state though that it's able to replace analysts, and I think you have plenty of time to study, to build your portfolio, finish your degree, and get a job. So, is AI dying? No, no, it's not.